Hi there, welcome to my YouTube channel. In this video, I am speaking up about a topic that is very near and dear to my heart. I was a very rebellious teenager and I put my parents through a lot. We are best friends today, but I want to use this story to help other people. So if you know of anyone who can relate to this, please send it to them. I hope it will inspire that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And yeah, so let's get right into it. There are pros and cons of making kids go to church. And when I was very young, early childhood, before 10 years old, my parents had me going to church and youth group, and I enjoyed it because I found things to engage in. I loved to sing, so I was into that. I loved the mental part of memorizing scripture, and they'd give you a reward or a prize if you could memorize a whole psalm. So Psalm 27 stayed in my brain for my entire life because I memorized these scriptures at a young age. These songs just stayed in my brain for my whole life. And Proverbs 22:6 says, direct your children onto the right path, and when they are older, they will not leave it. So even though I strayed for a long time and was living in the world, I eventually came back. And I would like to say that, obviously it's mostly God. It is God that brought me back to him. But having that foundation in my very early childhood played a role. So I think it's very important and encouraging. Now, the con here is forcing a kid to go to church too much can cause them to resent the church and Christianity. It can cause them to have bitterness towards all of it. And in that case, I would back off. And hopefully you have such a strong prayer lifestyle that you're giving it to God daily, that he would work through your kids and give them that natural desire. Because the more you force them, the more it's going to backfire. And you don't want that. You don't want them to despise Christianity altogether. So don't force them. If anything, take a more indirect approach, maybe buying them a devotional or doing something outside of church that could be godly related, something like that. And I will say your lifestyle is going to minister to your kids more than church will. The way you talk about others, the way you speak with your spouse, the way you battle issues. Do you pray in front of them? Are you praying over them? Are you praying together with your husband in front of them or your spouse? All these things, when your kids see that, they don't forget that. That is way more powerful than Sunday school and youth group is your home life. That is going to minister to them more than anything. So place importance on that before you are pushy about everything else. That's really my best advice with that. I also want to talk about physical discipline. This is a touchy topic. A lot of different opinions on this, and I would really love to hear your opinion on it below, please, because when my husband and I got together, we spoke about, well, how are we going to raise our kids if we have kids and this, that, and both of us said we are not big fans of physical discipline. And I didn't experience physical discipline until I was around 13, 14. And it wasn't abusive. It was my parents trying to follow the Bible. However, Jesus said wisdom is shown to be right by its results. And when I got physically disciplined at that age, it made me worse. It made me resent them more. It made me want to be more bad, actually, because I was pissed off now that they did that to me. I actually told the social worker at school, and they got a phone call from the school. So in today's culture, you got to use wisdom with this. And then again, I hear of some kids who were, maybe they were out of control from a very young age, like 3, 4, 5, and they got a good smacking from their parents. In that case, I could see that. Maybe. I don't know. I mean, I've never had kids before. So I'm curious to hear what everyone else's opinion is on this. But I just think that unless you've been doing it consistently throughout their life, you can't start later. So it didn't work for me. It didn't work for my husband either. We both were very out of control teenagers. So what I think would have worked for me was more of a psychological approach, because I was out of control due to the fact that I was boy crazy. So my whole life was about, when can I sneak out of the house to meet up with boys, right? And I would lie and say I'm staying after school for extra help. Meanwhile, I was hanging out with the boys, or what, like all these stuff like that. And it was because that was my source of validation. I never really learned what it meant to have self-worth. And you can only teach your child what self-worth is if you yourself believe in that. If you yourself have that. Because how can you give it to someone if you don't have it yourself? So as a young girl, I surely got the sex talk, but that's not going to cut it. Kids need to know that they are temples, precious temples. They are special, that they can't just share their body with anyone. And what does it say about you when you are willing to share your body so freely? Like, what does that communicate to the world? Saying things like this might have helped me. But my parents, they did the best they could. I mean, they were caught off guard with how I was. I went from being totally fine to just hormones hit, and I was wild. So the final thing that they did, and they had to get extreme because they, I guess, felt powerless. I tried to run away, and I got caught the next day, and they said they're sending me away. The place they sent me to was Heartlight Ministries. It's a Christian-based, therapeutic type of disciplinary, what have you, where you go to church every Sunday, you get therapy every week. And it was great in the sense that it broke the wild horse within me, and it made me appreciate what I had. And I'm glad my parents loved me enough to do the hard thing. And that's my last and final point, is if you have a kid that you feel hopeless, that it's so hard to get through to them, sometimes the most loving thing is the hardest thing. And it took my parents so much strength to be able to send me away for a year. And yeah, like I look back on that and I think as difficult as I was, they didn't want to do something that extreme, but they had to. And they loved me enough to do it. And that to me was such an example of the love of Christ. So, just thinking about it. And that's basically all I have to say is, you got to speak life into these kids. You got to pull out their good qualities, build upon their good things and their good strengths, so they don't look for validation in being bad. Because I started to have so much fun being bad. I was shoplifting and just being a total dirtbag, because that brought me excitement. When I was younger, I was doing gymnastics and singing lessons, and I just didn't feel like doing that anymore. I wish I would have been consistent with it. But yeah, that's it. That's all I have to share. And I hope this helps somebody, because I turned out quite all right. Thanks to God. So I'll see you in the next video. Thank you for watching.